So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Oh, hi, Stephanie. Okay, and we've got some other folks. Hello, Karen and Joshua. If we were at the library, we would all just be sitting down together in the room, and I'd be very tired because I would have put out a whole bunch of chairs. So we are good. Oh, Stephanie says, hi, all. Hi, Katie, and men with unpronounceable names. So nice to see you all. We're going to let everybody get in the room, and we'll give it a couple minutes. And, you know, it looks like my intention was to live stream this also on Facebook. But because we have the closed captioning service enabled, and that requires a live stream, it's not letting me do both. So, hi, Judy. Judy Cronenfeld is here too. Judy is part of our publications committee, and Stephanie leads our Poet Try workshops online. So nice to see some friendly faces. Oh, Robert Merrill. Hi, Robert. Neighbor and theater dude. Okay, so I imagine we're going to get some folks in, you know, coming in the next few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So welcome everybody to Inlandia at Home's virtual arts walk presentation for men with unpronounceable last names. So, and we're featuring Mathieu, I'm not sure how to say his last name. I think it's Cailer. I'm not sure. Alan Callaci. We've got Andrew Palasciano. I don't know. You know, I'm sure I'm totally botching these. And we've got Sean Pravica. So sorry, you guys. I really apologize for not getting your names just quite right. But before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that Inlandia respectfully acknowledges its responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, and to the Cahuilla, Tongva, and Luiseno and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, the Inlandia region is home to many indigenous peoples from all over the world, and we express our gratitude for them allowing us the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. So now I think let's go around the room and let's say hi to Mathieu.
Hi, my name is Mathieu. I'm going to be reading from Heaven and Other Zip Codes, which is a novel that just came out actually a few weeks ago. So this is good timing for me.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Mathieu.
Sure.
And we have Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan. I'm going to be reading a bit from two things. One will be from Heart Like a Starfish on Pelicanesis Press. And the other will be an ebook that came out about a year ago called Louder Than Goodbye, which is a collection of blogs I did for Huffington Post, BK Nation, and others about the passing of artists that we had over the year, pretty much 2016 to 17.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. We have Andrew or Andy. Unmute yourself, Andy. Uh-oh. And he's back.
Sorry. My name is Andy, and this is my book, The Warrior, The Tales of a Substitute Teacher and Job Coach. There's many other humiliating things that happen to me in there, like just happened now.
It happens to all of us. Thank you for putting it out there and for sharing those.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we have Sean. Hi, Sean. Okay.
Hey, Katie. Hey, everybody. My name is Sean, and I'm going to be reading some short stories out of my book, Hold Still Fast. It came out the third month of the apocalypse, May this year, from Palasciano. And every story in here is 50 words or less. So I'm excited to share some of these with you tonight.
Very cool. So some flash fiction. So I'll do a little more of an introduction for our readers in between as we go, but we do have 4 readers tonight, and we'll get started. So Mathieu is our first reader, and he is an award-winning author whose poetry and prose have been widely featured in numerous national and international publications, including the Los Angeles Times and the Saturday Evening Post. A graduate of the Vermont College of Fine Arts, he is the author of a novel, Heaven and Other Zip Codes, the short fiction collection, Los Angeles, the poetry collections, May I Have This Dance, and Catacombs of the Heart, and even children's books, Hi, I'm Night, and The Underappreciated Life of Humphrey Hawley. He's been honored by the Hollywood, New York, London, Paris, Best Book and International Book Awards, and he's a New England Book Festival Poetry Prize winner, and he's also been nominated for the Caldecott Medal and the Newbery Award. So welcome, Mathieu. Looking forward to hearing some of your work.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie, and Inlandia Institute. I'm so happy to read with all of you, and I'm a huge fan of Alan and Sean's work. I'm actually teaching both of their work come January, so it's very exciting. I have Alan's memoirs on deck for a class that I'm teaching about creative nonfiction, and Sean's the class on flash fiction that'll be, I think, in April. So kind of exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing Andy's work. So it goes to show you that you do these readings a few years ago, and I've stayed in touch with both these guys and really admired their work. They've taught me a lot about writing and how to live. So I'm going to read a quick little passage here from Heaven and Other Zip Codes. It came out probably at the worst time for a book to be released, about 3 weeks ago, but also exciting to have it out there, right? So this is it, and we're doing good stuff, and we're out here in Zoom land. The book is told in kind of an interesting way. It's 4 characters kind of run this story, and it weaves throughout each character's POV. So you hear from a character for about 1,000 words, and another character for about 1,000 words or so. It's about a tutor who gets far too involved for the family for whom he works. And so I'm going to be reading a short passage when Emerson, the tutor, also known as Mr. Toffler, takes Theo, the pupil, out to go painting for the day. So here we go. Emerson told Theo about the spot where they'd chosen to paint, a place suggested by Madame Fournier, only a half-mile from Abalone Cove. It was called Portuguese Bend, a serpentine road that was built atop an active fault. Because of the constant seismic activity, plumbing pipes were exposed above ground, and every couple of months, the city brought in construction crews to repair the torn asphalt. What Emerson loved about the area was that no one bothered painting here due to the road's volatile nature. Clusters of fennel and mustard plants carpeted the hills, and whenever the wind worked eastward, a trace of anise hung in the air. Emerson watched the boy's eyes widen with every tidbit of knowledge regarding a plant or a bird or the endemic Palos Verdes blue butterfly. When you live somewhere, you know nothing about it. It's just home, Emerson said. All the history just comes with it. Then someone comes to town and tells you everything about it, and you're there just shrugging your shoulders like, okay, yeah, whatever. I know that's how it was for me in Vermont. People would tell me about maple trees and tapping for syrup, and I'd be like, okay, cool, pass it over. My waffles are getting cold. Were you a good kid? Theo asked. He painted the curvy line of Portuguese Bend, paying attention to the shapes that jutted into the road. No, Emerson said. I got in trouble a lot. What's the worst thing you've ever done as a man? There's a lot of time left for that one, Emerson said. I'm only 26. Emerson mixed white into blue, trying to pinpoint the sky's shade. How about you? I once stole a Snickers from the market down the road, Theo said. Yeah? Yeah. My mom said I couldn't have it, so I just put it in my pocket. It was easy, but I felt bad about it, so I told my mom and she made me take it back and apologize. Look at you. Yeah, I guess. Theo got back to it, working his brush in gentle strokes, staying steady in one portion of the canvas for a long time. He detailed what could later be filled in, and Emerson felt his limbs tingle as he took in the boy's work. It was the first time in his life that his passion had been caught by someone else, that he'd successfully passed his love on to another person. More often than not, he had to find a way to talk about painting that would make others feel included, comparing it to their passions, fantasy football or bowling. But painting was not fantasy football, nor was it bowling. The light is prettier here than in any other spot we've painted, Theo said. Is it always like this? It's always interesting, even when it's not sunny, even when it's not bright or warm. Since Emerson had many depictions from this location, he didn't paint the ocean or road, opting instead to draw Theo. He didn't tell him because he thought it might distract Theo from his own work, so Emerson worked from memory most of the time, refreshing his imagination every now and then by stealing a peek, especially when he needed a specific detail, like how the boy was holding his brush, or how his hair was sitting on his ears, or how his shoelaces were moments from coming untied. I wonder why no one else paints here, Theo said. They're not as smart as us, Emerson said. Hey, have you ever been to Dominic's Steakhouse? No. Is it nice? It's good. I went there with Hoyt and Mom the other day. I hear it's good. They have girlfriend dishes, too, so that might be good for you. You know, to bring Carly. What do you mean, girlfriend dishes? Like oysters? I don't know. Some of the things on the menu had GF written next to them. Things guys can order for their girlfriends, I guess. Emerson set his brush down on his easel. I think that stands for gluten-free. Oh, God. That makes so much more sense. I thought it was weird. I mean, girls love pasta, and it wasn't picked as a GF item. After their laughs settled, the only sound that could be detected was the sigh of wind, and Emerson turned toward Theo to see exactly how the boy's legs were bent. Theo, Emerson said in a whisper, I'm being really serious right now. Do not move, okay? What? Do not move, Emerson said. I need you to listen to me. I need you to trust me. Emerson stared hard at a spot a few feet behind Theo, coercing the boy to line his eyes with the dusty rattlesnake, whose split tongue licked the air. Be still, he said again. He heeded his own advice, too. His mouth tightened, his molars adhered, saliva pooled in the back of his throat. The snake, however, disregarded the instructions, inching its way closer to Theo, its rattle now up and shaking, the sound of its heavy scales grating the dirt. Theo quivered. Mr. Toffler, he said, his right Nike slipping loose. And just that, the sound of rubber against earth startled the snake. It struck at once, a flash from the ground, its mouth wide, fangs plunging into Theo's calf. Shit, Emerson yelled, as the snake slithered into a patch of tall grass, its taupe body blending into the weeds. The rattle stopped, but Emerson still heard the sound in his ears. Emerson knew panic wouldn't help, but his insides were knotted. Sure, he'd seen the sign warning of snakes in these parts, but he'd seen so many signs in his life and never actually spotted the thing they warned against. Task and then another task, he thought. Take him to the hospital. Get him to the car. Stay calm. Lucky for Emerson, Theo was light, so Emerson flung the boy over his shoulder before tearing up the hillside to his car. His legs churned and prickled. Even though life was more important than usual, the tick of seconds he found possessed a slow motion quality, and his actions were deliberate. Keep talking to me, Emerson said. How are you feeling? He said, dropping the boy into the passenger seat. Before he knew it, he whipped the car around, nearly taking out a fire hydrant, and peeled onto the main road. The hospital isn't far, Emerson said. Not far at all. Just down here, just down the road. Not far at all. He ripped the shifter back, and the engine growled behind him as he zoomed past cars over double yellow lines. How's Fallon doing? Emerson asked. His voice rushed. He took a turn hard enough to make the tires scream. Theo held on. Is this really the best time for this conversation? She's good? Are you good? That's good. Am I going to die? Theo asked. Is this the kind of thing that kills people or just deforms them forever? Emerson ground gears and downshifted into second around a tight bend. Color drained from the boy's face. You're not going to die. So all went well with Lysanta and Hermia and the play? What are they going to do to me at the hospital? I don't know. It's getting really big. Look. Does it hurt? Yes, and it's numb, too. Shit. Emerson pummeled his horn, then darted through a stop sign after scanning the traffic. If anything, we're both going to die on this drive. Hey, Mr. Toffler, Theo said, if I do die, can you tell my mom that I love her? Emerson honked again and flipped the guy off. Sure, buddy. And the boy added, his voice low, can you tell yourself that I love you too? Even with the Volkswagen's RPMs high, Emerson heard the boy's sniffles, so he reached over and cupped Theo's head, feeling his soft hair against his palm. He let the words hang in the cabin, careful not to say something that would scare them away. Thank you.
Oh, man. So we don't get to find out how that ends.
No, it's true. We could do a longer Zoom, probably like a 4-hour one on a flight to Europe or something.
Okay. So I'm going to make that plan.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have Alan Callaci. I'm not positive how to say that, but I do want to mention just a couple tiny little things, just so people are aware. We're recording this, so we'll be on YouTube later. And also, if you need them, the closed caption function is enabled. So please do feel free to turn it on. And if you stick around to the end, then you'll get to find out how these fine men pronounce their names and possibly win a copy of their books. So Alan is the author of the 2016 memoir, Heart Like a Starfish, which recounts his experience of surviving a life-saving heart transplant that he was given only a 20% chance of surviving. Last year, Alan's second book, Louder Than Goodbye, a collection of meditations on the passing of assorted cultural icons from Mary Tyler Moore to Prince, was released on Palasciano Press. Outside of those two books, Alan has also written for the Huffington Post, BK Nation, Inland, and Inland Weekly. When not writing, Alan can be found teaching freshman comp at Mount Sac or working the reference desk at the Rancho Cucamonga Library and singing with Lo-Fi Pioneers Refrigerator. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Katie. Can you hear me? Okay. Thanks. I'm going to begin by reading a portion from Heart Like a Starfish, which, as Katie introduced, was kind of a journal / memoir that I wrote after a heart transplant surgery about 9 years ago at Cedars-Sinai, that I was given that 20% chance of surviving. Spoiler alert, it turned out okay. So, and the section I'm going to read speaks for itself. This is just me coming home after being at Cedars-Sinai for over 2 months. Welcome home, Uncle Alan. We love you, reads the large banner planted inside the small patch of lawn outside my apartment. The banner is a Henry and Harmony original, my niece and nephew. They have spent all afternoon making it. The banner is covered in felt marker hearts and flowers, courtesy of Harmony, and some Star Wars TIE fighters, courtesy of Henry. Look at this place, I think to myself. Look at it. I felt exactly how I used to feel as a kid on our annual family treks to Disneyland. The apartment is almost exactly like I left it, only cleaner. Jen had her house cleaner come by and get it into shape. Make sure you clean the heater vents, Jen had instructed her housekeeper. The immune system is going to be frail, and who knows what's been collecting in those vents in the time he's been away. The housekeeper has done a tremendous job. The heating vents have never shined so bright. It's like visiting a museum where everything has been preserved and recreated to assimilate exactly how it once was. The blue light radiates from the wine fridge I picked up earlier in the year to house a wine collection I no longer have a need for. Old, half-read copies of Rolling Stone magazine are stacked at one end of the coffee table. My grandmother's old sewing machine table, which rests atop the stereo. Neil Young's Sleep with the Angel is still nestled snugly in the CD tray. There have been some minor changes. Clear plastic bottles of hand sanitizer haunt each and every room. Disinfectant hand wipes on every nightstand. A small step stool by the foot of the bed. It is the bathroom that has been transformed most. A safety bar has been attached to the shower wall. A small plastic shower chair sits in the bathtub. The shower head is no longer there. In its place is a flexible water pick. I won't be showering, at least not standing up, for a while. Wow, this looks like an 82-year-old man's bathroom, I think. This no longer feels like Disneyland. Dennis, my brother, his wife Catherine, and my sister are running around my small apartment at warp speed. They bounce and race around the place like pinballs hitting bumpers. I stay planted at the end of the sofa and watch them. I don't have the strength to do a whole lot else. Just watching them bump around makes me dizzy. Oh God, it's been almost 30 minutes since you took your Starlix. I'm going to get dinner started. Does chicken broccoli and a baked potato sound good? Where should the meds go? Where's that binder we're supposed to record all the daily visits go? We didn't leave it back there, did we? Wait, no, here it is. I'm going to pull all your mail right here and you can sort through it all later. What else do you need right now? Anything? Anything? Only that everyone just stop and catch their breath a minute. You've all been so absolutely incredible. And I'd just like to tell you all how much good God, what's that smell? The smell of melting asphalt emits from my kitchen. Loretta lunges over to the kitchen. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, it's a potato, she cries out from the kitchen. I accidentally put it in for 15 minutes instead of 5. The windows fly open. The hills are alive with the smell of Lysol. Dennis quickly pulls me up out of the sofa and escorts me outside as if I were Elvis. The small circular kitchen table gets rolled out after me. A folding chair follows. Even from outside, the scent of the potato stench can't be escaped entirely. How can one minuscule potato wreak so much havoc and create such a lingering, all-encompassing stench? Oh God, says a hysterical Loretta. I'm sorry, I am so sorry. It's okay, I'll tell her. There'll be other days, and there'll most certainly be other potatoes. The sun is not quite set, but it's getting there. A neighbor from across the way pokes his head out the window to catch a quick peek of his old neighbor waddling over to his kitchen table, which has been temporarily transplanted to a thin stretch of glass separating the two apartments. He quickly surveys the scene. One small kitchen table, one paper plate filled with chicken and broccoli, a neighbor he hasn't seen in months, who is now 30 pounds lighter, and the strong smell of smoke discreetly poking as he discreetly pokes his head back in. Henry and Harmony's homemade banner rustles behind me in the breeze like a pair of fluttering wings. Welcome home, Uncle Alan. We love you. The greatest thing about being home is being home. And I'm going to do one last short section. This was from The Louder Goodbye. This is a piece I wrote for the Huffington Post. And this was done in response to the passing of Carrie Fisher. And it was titled, Good Night, Sweet Princess. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away that was inundated and oversaturated with fabricated camera groomed celebrity royalty, there lived a people's princess. She was everything a princess should be: smart, bold, beautiful, independent, witty, and spot on with a blaster. Luke Skywalker once foolishly thought he was there to rescue her. He should have listened closer to the holographic message she embedded in the R2 unit. She did not say, "Save me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." She said, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." She was a different kind of princess than the ones that had come before her. One that was not going to wait idly by to be saved. but one determined to take an active role in her destiny. She was an antidote to all the passive, doe-eyed Disney princesses waiting to be awoken with the kiss that had come before her. And she became the template for all the take-charge, kiss-ass pop culture heroines who followed her, from Aliens Ripley to the Hunger Games Katniss. To this day, she remains the only royalty I've ever found worth acknowledging. As has been duly noted in the steady streams of remembrances that have flowed since her passing, Carrie Fisher was far more than just her iconic role as Star Wars Princess Leia. She was a noted Hollywood script doctor, memorist, and an accomplished author who penned one of the most striking opening lines in modern fiction in her debut novel, Postcards from the Edge. Maybe I should have given the guy who pumped my stomach my phone number, but who cares? I have searched my feeling and know this all to be true. Yet whenever I would see Carrie Fisher on a talk show, book festival, or convention panel, I couldn't stop my nerd-wired mind from penciling in Princess Leia buns on either side of her head. Try as I might, I was never quite able to separate her from her most famous role. Part of the indelible association is seated in the fact that the individualistic spirit and the fierce integrity that Carrie Fisher brought to Leia was not a cinematic conceit, it was all her. The last time I caught Carrie Fisher was at a Star Wars celebration held in Orlando. She arrived at the Date with the Princess panel barefoot and carrying her beloved French bulldog, Gary. The arena was packed with wild-eyed Star Wars fans as she blasted straight from the hip. Pre-scripted responses be damned. The audience howled in adoration as she let out a barrage of four-letter words, and then moments later apologized to any children in the auditorium for her crass language. For any children in the audience tonight, please do not use my words you heard Princess Leia say tonight when you return to the schoolyard tomorrow. The warm cries of "We love you, Carrie" only multiplied after she gave her perfectly timed comic apology. I waited over 4 hours to get into that panel. 4 hours I would gladly wait again. I feel I speak for anyone there with me in that large auditorium that day when I say you left with a smile, feeling like you just spent an hour with an incredibly genuine, warm, funny, and flawed individual. Someone who refused to be prepackaged for easy consumption. Someone who did not suffer fools gladly, even those who worshipped at her feet. She was someone who refused to transform herself into something she had no interest in being for the sake of a perfectly coughed image. And in the end, she was someone who was universally loved, not in spite of all this, but because of all this. Now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet princess, and flights of angels, sing thee to thy rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Such a nice recollection of Carrie Fisher, and also, you know, very meaningful and moving to hear about your experiences with the heart transplant. We had one audience member who noted that she wanted to use the clap hands icon, and I think maybe in the webinar you can't do that, but you have some silent applause from the audience. So, yay. So we're moving on to our third reader, who is Andrew or Andy. I'm not sure which you prefer, but I know you as Andy. Andy has Andy, okay, good. Andy has a bachelor's in English Lit from SDSU. He still resides in San Diego, where he co-hosts Broken Anchor Poetry, which is how I've met him. Also randomly running into him at Rhino Records in Claremont. And Broken Anchor Poetry, for those who haven't heard of it, it's a monthly poetry event. I'd be curious to know if you're still doing this on Zoom now.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Andy Palasciano. Oh, I think I've got that wrong, but close enough, right? Okay.
Yeah, close enough.
Welcome,
okay,
Andy.
so hi, my name is Andy, and this is my book. I'm going to be reading from The Warrior: The Tales of a Substitute Teacher and Job Coach. And I became a substitute teacher right out of college with no teaching, training at all. I got my emergency credential, and I mainly taught elementary schools. So I'm going to read about that first. As a kid, I had a cousin who was a sleepwalker. One time she woke up in a neighbor's yard more than an acre away. That's how I felt as a substitute teacher. Someone would wake me up in the middle of my class and say, "You were sleepwalking into this chemistry class, claiming you could teach chemistry. Hilarious." I realized that it took more energy to conserve energy than to expend it. Adults might have similar amounts of energy as children if they did everything with all of their hearts the way children do. The problem for me was that I had nowhere near that level of heart back then, so the students would run circles around me. I tried to control them. I stopped kids from leaving the class, but they would just slip out a different door. I'd send them to the office, but they would run wild in the halls instead. I would write a note to the permanent teacher, and the kids would steal it. I'd write their names on the board, they'd erase it. So used to having no control over my classes, I was shocked whenever it seemed that students were actually listening to me. One girl in the front row once got control of the class for me, and in less than 5 seconds, she looked at me and said, "Okay, now teach." I stood there thinking, teach what? My one shot at control had evaporated as quickly as it had appeared. Pandemonium erupted again. In a special ed class, I had to shadow one student around. He kept repeating my name, "Andy," like the star of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. The whole time he ran around the campus, jumping off trash cans, knocking things over. In another special ed class, the kids responded well to me. For the first time, I thought, maybe this is the direction I should go. A teacher's aide saw the same thing. You work well with them. Most other teachers come in with an agenda and something to say, but you don't. I thought, yeah, I'm good at that no agenda, nothing to say stuff. Toward the end of my career as a substitute teacher, I established a curriculum of my own design. I had become so used to students not listening to me for more than a few seconds, I had stopped trying. Then I decided, I will get learning packets. At Kmart, in the teaching section, I bought packets for children to fill out. One of the packets had a picture of a desk with a chair on top of it. Students had to write what was wrong with each picture. I showed that packet to a friend and she said, "Why can't there be a chair on top of a desk? It's crazy what we're teaching our kids." She's right, I thought. Our Kmart packet-based curriculum contained no mystery. We were teaching kids about certainty, but we weren't certain about the things we were teaching. I wrote a prose poem about this outrage. 65-million-year-old crime solved. A mother hadrosaur is found slain on Monday. Forensic scientists say the victim's fossil was found near Lake Michigan. Forensic scientists say what is most vile about the crime is that the corpse was buried in the pre-Cretaceous level of the Earth's crust, millions of years before the hadrosaur's period. There are many suspects, Laelaps, Brachiosaurus, and Velociraptor among them. Who had the motive, scientists wondered. But forensic scientists have conclusive evidence that it was Archaeopteryx who committed the crime. It was Archaeopteryx who slashed the hadrosaur's throat with its talons, and the hadrosaur struck back with a bite to the wing. This was considered self-defense since Archaeopteryx had just stolen the hadrosaur's eggs, and Archaeopteryx did in fact kill her. The descendant of the hadrosaur, which include the flamingo and the platypus, can finally rest knowing justice has been served. Descendants of Archaeopteryx were taken into custody Monday. I never trusted Archaeopteryx, one policeman said. Scientists were able to reenact the entire scene thanks to the shape of Archaeopteryx's head, which proved it did this sort of thing and hibernated in trees in winter. Scientists were also able to conclude from its head that Archaeopteryx lived like a flying squirrel, jumping from tree to tree. There is said to be a mini-series coming out on TNT titled, "An Archaeopteryx Stole My Baby." Okay, and then I was also what I am now is a job coach, and I basically go to people's jobs, disabled adults that work in, maybe a Walmart or grocery store, and I just make sure they do their job right. One of the first times I job coached at a movie theater, I worked for my scheduled hour. Then, walking to the parking lot, I was thinking, I'm really organized now. I dug into a pocket, then another, unable to find my car keys. The car was unlocked. I felt relief. Then glanced at the ignition, found the keys, and the car was still running. I hadn't burned up too much gas, and the air conditioner still worked. My car had never felt this refrigerator cold before, so I drove away, congratulating myself. And then what we call the disabled people we work with clients. So this is about that. One client became my roommate. He had played football in high school too. His summer 2-a-day practices took place in Orange County near the ocean. Mine were held in Upland, a small foothill community near San Bernardino where stage 4 smog alerts and 100-degree temperatures were common. Ironically, my roommate's football coach used to goad his players during Hell Week by asking them if they'd rather be in San Bernardino. And that same coach made his players pound their helmets and chant, "Foothill's coming, they want you, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. My football practices are just a blur now. I can only remember the face mask of my helmet and the sound of me running out of breath. Many of my memories have compressed in that same way, with what appear to be meaningless details, all that remain of them. Safari Park Zoo, wild deer in the parking lot near the entrance, mist making that image dreamlike. Other memories contain more details. In these, I remember what I had learned from those I'd been hired to watch over. Hundreds, maybe thousands of crows would fly over my house each morning. A client believed that crows hung out by themselves during the day, then got together in the evening to party. Skeptical, he and I got in my car and followed a flock one evening, ending up at an elementary school playground. The field had turned black with crows. Another client owned a walk-in aviary with more than 30 birds in it. An older man, he had grown up on an Oklahoma farm. He told stories as if pulling them from dreams. A character in all these stories was the chief. I came to realize that this was God. Whenever a bird got out of the aviary, he would say, "That bird went to see the chief." He described a dream he had while wide awake. "The chief's daughter has a horse for me. It's Snow White." In a poem, I wrote that in his mind, the mules are running free. He had found the freedom I was still searching for. When I worked at a senior citizens home, I became friends with a resident who suffered from Alzheimer's. Zella told stories in a Southern dialect. She talked about moving to Paris, where a house waited for her. When I showed her a map of Paris to find the location of the house, she laughed. "Not Paris, France, Paris, California." She pronounced both cities the same way. Listening to Zella as she sat in her wheelchair near the fireplace, I felt myself being tucked into a nook. Later, I would learn that a space on either side of the fireplace was called an ingle nook. I wrote a poem that started, "Sitting in the ingle nook, I thought about the flensing of whales." I dreamed about Zella's stories of her life on the farm and felt privileged to hear them. I even began to feel sorry for others who walked by outside and couldn't listen in. Outside in the May's wind, a man with sunken knuckles bends to pick up flypaper. Zella got to Paris and that house was waiting for her. Tonight, I worked as a job coach in a Vons. The new grocery bagger I was coaching reminded me of someone who worked at the Vons and employed Dina. All baggers had to tell checkers if they saw something on the bottom of carts. The code word was Bob for bottom of basket. Dina's store manager liked to grind this in by asking, "Hey, Dina, did you ask about that Bob? How about that Bob?" She said her manager was relentless about it. I had joked that for her manager's birthday, she should invite him to the movie What About Bob? I kept thinking about this tonight, chuckling to myself. Then I saw him. Checking out at my new bagger's line, movie star Richard Dreyfuss unloaded his items. My client said, "I think he was in that movie, What About Bob?" After carrying the groceries to the actor's car, my client followed the rules and said he was not allowed to accept tips. "In this economy," Richard Dreyfuss said. When we got back inside, my client said, "He was a famous actor." I said, "He's been in a lot of movies," I told him. "He starred in Jaws." "No," my guy said. "He was in What About Bob?" At a poetry reading, I almost stood up and shouted, "This poem mentions blueberries, and blueberries have antioxidants. What if this offends someone who likes oxidants? One reason for that almost outburst sprang from my feeling that I had been slandered over my own art, and the pain wouldn't leave me. I blamed others for misreading my work. Then I blamed myself for a lack of clarity in my writing. The real reason became clear much later. Art is risk, so is life. There are no guarantees. A friend who loves going to Disneyland to make wishes at Snow White's wishing well taught me to pour everything into each wish. Making the wish, having the hope, that's what matters, regardless of the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That was really nice. I really appreciated your perspective on all that and your work with the special education students and adults. That was really funny. The what about Bob and Richard?
Yeah, that happened. That was crazy. It was,
yeah, crazy coincidence.
Yeah.
So our last reader, before we get to our final, pronunciation lessons, and now actually I'm very curious if there's a different way to say Paris, California from Paris, France.
I know.
So, okay, because I'm not French. But so our last reader for this evening is Sean Pravica. I'm not sure how to say that. But Sean is a California writer and the author of Stumbling Out the Stable. He enjoys ample time outside with his partner, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'm also going to butcher that, with a special place in their hearts for the Mojave Desert and the Eastern Sierra. So welcome, Sean.
Thanks, Katie. And I've got to say, the first time you said my name, I've heard my last name pronounced a lot of different ways, but I think Pravica is my favorite of all time. So thanks for that. And also, since you already mentioned my partner, you think our names are bad. Her name is Denelza. Straight up. I'll just give that one away right now. It's quite a name. I find it quite beautiful, like her. So anyway, really happy to be here. Yeah, it's a great one. Her parents made it up, actually, so go figure. Anyway, really happy to be here on this panel. Love Inlandia. It's so fun to be able to read with Matt and Alan, my friends again, and to meet Andy. Andy, that's great. It's super funny. I love Alan and Matthew's work. Getting to be exposed to your work tonight is really a pleasure. So great to be with you all. As I mentioned, I will be reading from Hold Still Fast, which is a collection of short stories, none longer than 50 words. The ethic is, I kept to a tight ethic on this one, so conjunctions count as 2, and any abbreviations count for as many words as they represent. So AKA, also known as, stands for 3. So I didn't want to have any loopholes or cheat it. So this is a book that, in many senses, a lot of these stories are open to interpretation. So we're going to start off with a story called Play, which has a bit to do with interpretation. She played guitar on the city street. Her red hair dripped over her shoulders like melted wax. Ratty and knotted, wooden beads enclosed in its dready parts like pearls and clamshells. Someone dropped a crumpled dollar bill, her guitar case closed. It almost stopped her, but she played on. Next one I'm going to read, a few of these stories were published in some journals prior to the publication of this book. This story of the camp was in Spartan, which, if any of you are interested in flash fiction or minimal fiction, I find that to be one of my absolute favorite literary journals for that kind of, for that genre. A very spare site, a white background with black text only, about 3 or 4 stories each quarter. So minimal to the T, but really happy to be part of it, really happy to share it from this collection. The camp. Morning. Shadows shifting glacially against the rock face beyond his camp. The wind breaking against his jacket, whipping his tarp. The fire burning, a crackle like footsteps over broken earth. A couple passed. They looked at him, but he did not return their attention. Each day farther, closer to home. There's a number of themes in this book. Some are recurring. One of them being the value of work and the integrity of work And that's something that's very important to me, the fact that, you know, all work matters and all work deserves respect. And don't want to give away too much, but that is a recurring theme in some of these stories. Marine layer. She always cleaned the bathrooms first, so she could look out the windows as she worked in the dining rooms. She moved slower than usual this morning, extra sore from her graveyard shift at the distribution center. So did the sun, at least, it seemed, as though just for her. Mentioned that some of these stories are, again, up for interpretation, and to give away the symbolism in this next story, this is a story that describes a scene that's pretty simple. It's about things children do, but it's actually a story about foreclosure, and the fact that in the case of a foreclosed house, it's almost like this thing happens, and it can be like a pebble in the ocean. The show must go on. A bridge led from one side of the wash to the other, and the children ran across it, dragging sticks against its metal grated sides. One boy tripped, fell, dropped his stick. The others kept running. When he got up, they had already crossed, like nothing had happened. It's also interesting, you know, for a writer, you write a book, you write stories, you write a novel, well before its publication date. And given the timing of when this book came out, you know, I'd gone into this work of fiction really wanting, I mentioned themes, the central theme to be empathy. But then with recent events, some things that come up, it's interesting to read it now to see how some of these stories even kind of change for me as I read them. So in a time of COVID, I certainly read this one a bit differently. Heart. A flash of light, a birth. Neon violet, rich blue, a faint orange ring lining the flame's heart. She prolonged the match, digesting its simple utility, snuffing it when the heat burned too hot at her fingertips. The power out for the fourth day, she looked more closely at things. I just say, hope everybody's going well with all your networks and all the families and everyone you know, all those Californians with everything that's happening to our state right now. Here's a character piece, different direction, hat. He held his leather cowboy hat, ran a thumb around its brim. A neighbor he did not know called him Crocodile Dundee. Of course, that neighbor he did not know lived in a house. He lived behind the dumpster across the road. Every day he walked, his hat on, head high. Story I'd like to share here called Shed. She cut her hair short. The tops of her ears showed now. She looked at them in the mirror, absorbing their visibility. Walking, the air felt colder, but richer. It moved in layers, revealed undulating textures that before were hidden to her. This is what it felt like, letting go. As an aside here, we just got a dog again, Danelle's and me. We got a dog named Gila, named after the Gila National Forest, which is our favorite place that we've been to together. Gila National Forest being in Arizona and New Mexico, we specifically were enamored with the New Mexico side of it. So we named her dog Gila, and I guess this story's for her, but we got a dog. Take a listen. Celebration. She moved with magical speed, a transfixing slowness as she twisted over and bare against the cold sheets. He followed, walked forward and over her on hands and knees. They teased, took their time, or tried. They were too eager. It was a fun night. The dog, his birthday, slept. Birthdays only happen once a year. Got to celebrate, you know, once a year. It's a big deal. Here's a story about maybe I hope to say the best parts of sports, the tough parts of sports, but I think ultimately in here, the best parts of sports. Safety. She slid fast against the rain-soaked turf, flakes of itchy grass crawling onto her leading leg. Her foot struck the ball first, sent it upfield towards relative safety. The opposing player stood now, shed her allegiance temporarily to ask if she was okay. The whistle sounded, so high-pitched. Just got a few more for you. A few more to wrap this up. Fund. The bottles were full of change and paper money. Everyone must have contributed. It was a small town, but felt larger lately. The bottles were on counters at the deli, grocery store, gas station, and schools. Tams also had one. People smiled at each other. Town felt smaller lately, too. More to go, the final stanza. He was a homeless poet and locals knew him. He exchanged his poems for spare change. He did not go hungry. His poetry was observational. Children playing, people arguing, reasons for living during rainy weather. When he died, people read their personal favorites of his across sunlit pages. And to close out, I've got to say, hearing Alan's mention of Neil Young, I decided that this would be the story I'd like to finish on. So this is a game time decision. Harvest Moon. They pulled over to sleep off the dirt road. The harvest moon low, large, orange. They lay in the back, under a sleeping bag fully unzipped. Owls hooted, crickets chirped, all else was stillness. Closely, they swore they heard strumming, a mystery ballad about moments never known again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sean. That causes me to think about what's the difference between such brief fiction and poetry. You know, there's a lot in common with that brevity. That was great. So I would like to go to our audience now, and I'm going to open up my panel so I can see you. Anybody who would like to, let's see, the first person to raise your hand who wants to pronounce Matthew's last name. Let's see if you get it right. I can turn on your audio so you can speak if you're wondering how we're going to do this. So raise your hand if you want to try and win a book. You win one of Matthew's books. Surely somebody wants to. I don't see any raised hands.
They're too intimidated by the name.
Oh, really, truly, okay. Okay, shall I call on somebody at random? Robert, do you want to give it a try? Okay, Stephanie. We are all in awe of the beautiful work. Yes, indeed. Okay. Let's see. Hi, Robert. I've just allowed you to speak if you would like to.
Oh, great.
Give it a shot. It's cool. Nobody volunteered, so I had to volunteer someone.
Mathieu Cailler.
Wow, he did it.
I did it?
Okay.
He did it.
All right. Yay,
Robert, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I heard Cailler. That was really good. Robert, why don't you write in the comments your address, then I can send you a book.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Or I can give it to you if you don't want to put it in the comments, Robert. I have.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
You're welcome. All right. Okay, so that was fun. Who would like to pronounce Alan's last name? I'm happy to volunteer someone unless somebody will. Oh, I see we've got Martha who raised her hand. So Martha, how do you pronounce Alan's last name? You should be able to speak. Whoops, let me click the button again. There, talking permitted. Hi, Martha. Oh, I can't hear you. Ask to unmute.
Okay, I'm
There you
muted.
go.
Okay.
Got
Can you
it.
hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, it's Callaci.
Callaci, is that right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Hi, Ellen.
Hey, Martha. Hey, that's cheating.
Uh-oh. Well, nobody else volunteered, so she wins legitimately. So Martha, I don't have your address, but if you would like, I can send you an email, or if you want to email me and we'll get your address.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I have it from when you registered. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, here comes another hard one. Andy. Who wants to pronounce Andy's last name? Raise your hand, or I'll do what I did with Robert and volunteer someone.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, Stephanie, I'm gonna volunteer you. Oh, Robert again. Uh-oh, wait. Okay, let's see what Robert says. Why am I not able to make, there we go, allow to talk. Hi, Robert. Again?
I feel bad that I raised my hand now. Palasciano.
Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, I mean that's how I've always said it, and then like my publisher like told me how to say it a different way, and then other parts of my family say something. But that is the pronunciation that I've used my whole life. So I give you the book. Yes.
Okay. So do you want to tell us the other pronunciation for the?
Yeah, my publisher would every time like I would be at a poetry reading or something, he would say my name, Palasciano. I had never heard that before with a CH. So all my family and they're Italian has said Palasciano my whole life. So that's good.
Palasciano. Okay. Okay. So our last name for the night is Sean. Oh, Judy's already got her hand up. Okay, Judy. I saw that. Okay. So Judy?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm purely guessing that it's Slavic, so I'm going to say Pravica.
Oh my God. We got a winner, Katie.
Really?
Oh my.
All right.
So
Hey,
yeah.
Judy. Okay. I definitely, for the longest time, had no clue. So,
Fun.
so Pravica or Pravica, which
Pravica.
Pravica. Okay.
Yeah, no, she's dead on. That is wild. So if I can, I'd like to share, Judy. So if any,
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, just because it's American, so I was going to give a book to somebody who pronounced it that way, but I'm going to give you my novel too because that's a bonus point.
Fabulous.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
That was.
And hi, Allison. I see Allison Hedge-Koch in the audience. And, you know, we're wrapping this up, but this has been a lot of fun, you guys. And I really appreciate everybody playing along and sticking it out and hearing all these great authors, so different and yet also equally wonderful in different ways. I really appreciate everybody, all of your writing and coming here in this virtual space. And just, I'll remind you next month. So every month on the first Thursday of the month, we are doing virtual Arts Walk at Home. So tonight's event, I should have mentioned this right at the top of the hour, but I'll say it now, is in partnership with the Riverside Public Library. As we always have been for Arts Walk, we are virtual partners. And next month, we will be here on the first Sunday of November for the Writing from Inlandia, the 2019 anthology launch, which is just coming out. So thank you all for being here. I hope you will join us again in this virtual space, and I wish you all good health and safety as we all go on our way tonight. So take care. Thank you for coming. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Kimmy.
I loved it.
That was fun.
That was
Me
fun.
too. For sure.